How are you feeling today? There is a kind of person you can recognize even in a crowd. They are not loud, they don't need to prove anything. Yet their presence makes the whole space grow quiet. When others argue, they stay silent. When everything becomes tangled, they simply watch. When someone tries to pull them into chaos, they just take a deep breath and release it slowly, as if the storm outside has nothing to do with them. You may have met someone like that before. They don't need to talk much, yet you feel safe when standing next to them. In their eyes, there is something strange, a silence that speaks, not coldness, but the crystallization of things that once shattered. Because only those who have been swept into storms, who have exhausted themselves trying to control everything, are the ones who eventually learn how to stand still. People often think calmness is a gift, but in truth, no one is born serene. Real calm only arrives after you've tasted enough bitterness of life, when you understand that sometimes reacting forcefully only wounds you more, and silence becomes the only way to keep yourself intact. There are storms that cannot be stopped, but you can stop fighting them. There are people who don't try to win. They simply learn to be in between, neither drifting with it nor resisting it. And right in that in-between place, they discover what many spend an entire lifetime searching for: inner freedom. They don't avoid the rain, they've simply learned to stand still in it. When you see someone not reacting, don't assume they are weak or indifferent. They may have simply traveled farther than you, on the journey of learning to master themselves. Because sometimes true strength does not lie in what you do, but in the ability to no longer need to do anything at all. People often think calmness means having no emotions, but in truth, those who are calm are the ones who feel the deepest. They still get angry, still get sad, still have nights lying awake with thousands of thoughts running through their minds. It's just that they no longer let those emotions control them. They don't chase after every wave rising inside, but learn to observe it, to let it come, to let it go without losing themselves. Calmness is not a lack, but a fullness of awareness. It is when you feel everything, yet only respond to what truly matters. Calm people are not swept away by emotion because they have learned to sit with it, look directly at it, and ask, "What have you come to teach me?" They understand that emotion is not an enemy. It is simply the voice of a part within that needs to be heard. And when you begin to listen, you are no longer afraid, because fear exists only when we keep trying to run from ourselves. That is when you realize calmness is not indifference, but a form of emotional intelligence. It is when you no longer react to resist, but act to understand. They know that if you don't understand your fear, it will keep returning. If you don't understand your anger, it will keep erupting in another form. And when you look deeply within, the emotion begins to dissolve, not because you suppress it, but because you understand it. Real calmness isn't the absence of emotion, it's what happens when emotion meets understanding. Calm people are not those who feel nothing, but those who feel enough to no longer need to react. They do not lose their emotions. They have simply learned its language. There is a phase in life when everyone once believed that if we try hard enough, if we are strong enough, everything will eventually go our way. We try to control our emotions, control other people, control even the things that were never ours to control. And then, after hundreds of disappointments, we finally understand. Life never behaves as obediently as we expect. The calm person you see today is someone who was once very not calm. They were once someone who overthought, cared too much, and was so easily hurt that a single sentence could keep them awake all night. They once wanted to please everyone and were slowly worn down by that very desire, once wanted to fix everything. Until they realize some things can only be accepted, not repaired, they are calm today. Is the result of countless times being exhausted from fighting back, until one day they no longer wanted to battle the waves. They chose to rise above them, no longer trying to grasp, only learning to release, no longer trying to control the water, only learning to move with it, and in that shift, something strange happens. The wave is no longer as frightening as before, because they understand. The problem was never the wave, but the way we deal with it. Calm people know every outward resistance is merely a reflection of an inner battle. When the heart no longer wants to win, everything naturally becomes gentler. At some point, they stop trying to control the ocean, and instead, they learn to surf it. That is the moment of transformation. When one realizes peace does not come from stopping the waves, but from stopping the fight against them. When we talk about calmness, people often think of emotions, but in reality, calmness is also a state of the brain. Inside us, there is a small region called the amygdala, the place where fear, anxiety, reactions, and impulsive bursts that make us lose control are born. When you feel insulted, panicked, or hurt, it is the amygdala that pulls the trigger first. But then, in someone who has trained themselves to be calm, something subtle happens. The amygdala still functions, but it no longer holds control over the entire system. Reason, located in the prefrontal cortex, has learned how to step in before the emotion explodes. Like an adult placing a hand on the shoulder of the panicking child within and saying, "Stay calm, breathe. We've been here before." That moment, the pause between feeling and reacting, is the superpower of calm people. Just a small pause, but enough to stop an entire storm from bursting. Calm people don't suppress emotion. They've trained their minds to pause between feeling and reacting. They still feel, but they don't let emotion determine their actions. They're not dragged around by every tiny stimulus of life, because they know every impulsive reaction comes with a cost. In truth, calmness is not an innate ability, but a skill trained over time. The brain, just like a muscle, grows stronger when patience is practiced. Those who were once hot-tempered and impulsive, after much pain and regret, begin to realize, if they don't learn to take a single breath before reacting, they will forever remain prisoners of their own emotions. And then gradually, their brain learns how to breathe. Emotion arrives, reason appears, and between the two lies choice. The choice to stay silent instead of exploding. The choice to breathe instead of bursting. The choice to understand instead of resisting. That is not just discipline, but a form of mental evolution. There is a truth few dare to say, that most of the calmest people did not learn it from books or from meditation, but from the falls that changed them forever. They were once fragile souls, easy to love, easy to trust, easy to break. Once the kind of person who always said yes, even when they were on the verge of tears. Once someone who carried everyone else's pain until there was no space left for their own. Then one day, their body grew tired, their mind drained, and even their kindness began to crack. They realized, not everyone deserves their reaction. Not every place deserves their heart. Right at that threshold, the first form of calmness was born. Not something that came from practice, but a self-defensive reflex of the soul after too much noise. They stopped reacting because they had learned the cost of always reacting. Stopped arguing because they had seen how silence can be more convincing than 1,000 words. Stopped proving themselves because finally they understood. Those who understand need no explanation. Those who don't want to understand won't be convinced no matter what you say. Peace didn't come from meditation. It came from exhaustion. They were tired from giving too much to things unworthy, tired from losing themselves just to hold on to things that would eventually leave. And then, in that exhaustion, something new was born, the wisdom of fatigue. Real calmness is not nobility, but clarity that arrives after you've been drained. It is a sight turning into acceptance, the pain dissolving into understanding. The moment you sit in the ruins and suddenly realize there's nothing left to fix. Everything is already where it needs to be. And in that moment of letting go, you finally touch what you had been searching for all along. Peace is not a reward, but the result of no longer fighting. There is a subtle difference between those who react and those who understand. When something happens, the reactive person sees only chaos, but the calm person sees a pattern. They look at someone's anger and see the fear beneath it. They look at failure and see the lesson unfolding. They look at a loss and see space being cleared for something new. They have been through enough to understand that everything has its own rhythm, and not everything needs to be understood immediately. Calm people have the ability to zoom out. They don't see life as fragmented pieces, but as a moving whole with its own order. So when others ask, "Why is this happening to me?" they simply smile and reply, "Perhaps it's happening for you." While most see chaos, calm people see patterns. That is the gift of a quiet mind. When the heart is no longer hurried, the brain begins to notice connections it once overlooked. Patience creates vision, and that vision allows them to walk lightly because they no longer need the world to be right in order for them to be at peace. They understand that everything has a cycle, arriving, departing, breaking, healing, losing, then filling again. And if we are quiet enough to observe, we will see. Within every chaos lies a structure, and within every ending hides a seed of beginning. They don't ask, "Why is this happening?" but rather, "What is it teaching me?" That question is what sets them free. Calm people don't try to block the flow, because they know that every resistance to reality only doubles the pain. When we stop reacting, we begin to see, and when we see, we stop fearing. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you create space, and that space is where peace begins. Perhaps that is why calm people tend to make others feel at ease, not because they speak better, but because they see further. While the world rushes to find answers, they choose simply to observe, and in that observation, they find something few people still hold on to. The quiet trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it needs to. Not everyone becomes calm because they chose to. Sometimes calmness is simply what remains after every form of resistance has already failed. Some people learn to stay silent because they were once hurt for speaking honestly. Some learn to smile because they were once blamed for showing sadness. Some learn to not react because they were once seen as weak when they cried. So they withdrew inward, building a shell called calmness. Not to pretend to be strong, but to survive. For them, calmness was once armor, a thin shield between a fragile heart and an overwhelming world. They thought they were suppressing, but in truth, they were learning to regulate. Then gradually, that defense transformed. It was no longer avoidance, but a cognitive strength. Silence was no longer an escape, but a way of choosing where their energy goes. Not everyone deserves to hear your heart. Not every battle is worthy of your presence. Calmness began as protection, but over time, it evolved into power. This is the greatest shift in human psychology, from defense to awareness. The calm person today no longer uses silence to hide, but to listen. no longer keeps distance to protect themselves, but to observe and understand more deeply. They know pain doesn't come from what others do, but from what we have not yet understood about ourselves. When you understand yourself, the world becomes far less frightening. Attacks lose their power because they no longer strike wounds that have already healed. Their calmness is not apathy, but the wisdom of someone who has been hurt and has learned how to return to wholeness on their own. They don't need to shout to be heard, because their presence alone is enough to quiet others. They don't need to prove they are right, because they know truth does not live in words, but in inner clarity. Those who once used calmness as a shield now use it as a light. They no longer defend, they radiate quietly, steadily, and untouchably. There is something special about calm people. They don't live fast, they live with rhythm. In the morning, they wake up a little earlier, drink tea or coffee in silence, watch the light slip through the window, as if time itself has slowed down. In the evening, they don't rush into their phones. They simply sit alone, breathe steadily, and let the day fade gently like an exhale. For them, peace doesn't come from grand things, but from very small moments done with complete presence. They don't rush to find peace because they know when you try to find peace, it means you are running away. But when you are truly present, peace finds you on its own. Peace isn't found in control, it's found in awareness. Calm people understand that everything in life has cycles, emotions too. Sadness arrives and then leaves. Anger rises and then dissolves. Joy comes and then it departs. No need to grasp, no need to hold, just witness. That is their art of living, to live slowly, to live consciously, and to not let the mind be dragged around by trivial things. While others chase specialness, they seek simplicity. While others strive to win, they only wish to understand, because they have seen every argument, if dragged on long enough, are just two fears talking to each other. And every noise, if listened to carefully, is simply loneliness trying to be acknowledged. They no longer want to be right. They want to understand. They no longer want more. They want enough. Their sadness turns into reflection. Their anger turns into clarity. Their fear turns into faith. That is the alchemy of the soul. When a person turns emotion into awareness, reaction to observation, impulse into understanding. And when they reach that state, they no longer need to escape life. They can sit right in the middle of the noise and still hear their inner voice clearly. That is the deepest freedom of the mind. When you no longer need to leave the world to find peace, you just need to stay with the presence of someone who has learned how to live within it. There is something fascinating that few people notice. Calm people don't just change themselves, they change the atmosphere of any place they walk into. When they are present, the room seems to slow down. Other people's heartbeats settle, voices soften, and suddenly, everyone starts listening to each other more. Not because they hold power, but because their energy has been regulated. They don't stir, they harmonize. They don't pull anyone up or push anyone down. They simply make others want to be calm with them. They don't raise their energy to match the noise. They lower the noise by being themselves. Calm people have a strange kind of influence. They don't persuade with words, but with their presence. Just by sitting there, not reacting, not judging, everything around them slowly finds its proper place again. Because calmness is a neutralizing energy. It softens inflated egos, soothes open wounds, and illuminates what has been hidden beneath the noise. That is why calm people often have gravity. They don't attract through appearance, but through the safety others feel when standing near them. a safety that doesn't come from promises but from the knowing that they won't hurt you with their reactions. And perhaps that is the deepest form of communication, not speaking correctly but making sure others don't need to defend themselves when they're with you. When you stay calm, you become harder to manipulate because nothing confuses chaos more than someone who doesn't join it. When you're calm, those who feed on emotional drama slowly drift away. Toxic relationships lose their grip. And the people who remain are those who respect your quiet. That is the silent strength the world rarely acknowledges. A calm person doesn't need to defeat anyone, yet they always make others soften around them. Because in a world obsessed with being more, the calm person is the one brave enough to be enough. In a society that sees silence as weakness, they turn silence into a soft weapon. Their calmness is a quiet rebellion. Not loud, not violent, but powerful enough to shift the emotional frequency of those nearby. And that is what makes them rare and strangely precious. They are not just someone who lives in peace, they spread it. There will come a day when you no longer want to search for peace, no longer believe it lays in meditation, in distant trips, or in someone who can finally make you feel enough. Because you realize peace is nowhere out there. It is right here, in the way you show up for your own life. You don't need everything to be perfect to feel at ease. You only need to stop resisting what already is. Stop searching for reasons behind your sadness. Stop blaming fate and begin whispering to yourself, I accept I'm still here. Peace isn't something you chase, it's something you become. Calm people are not different from you. They have simply gone a little farther on the path of letting go. They once reacted, once raged, and once cried until nothing was left. But instead of letting their wounds define them, they let their wounds teach them. When we understand pain, it no longer needs to scream to be heard. When we understand ourselves, we no longer need the world to validate us. And then, everything outside begins to shift. Not because the world has changed, but because our gaze has softened. We no longer need to be right, no longer need to be understood, no longer need to be loved in the exact way we want, because we have learned to love ourselves in every breath, every moment, every imperfection. That is when you realize peace is not a reward for the strong, but a home for those who have stopped running. When you stop searching, peace finds you. When you stop trying to control, life begins to flow in its own way, natural, light, and deep. Calmness is not emptiness, it's fullness without noise. Calmness is a wordless state of wholeness. It is when you can live amid the noise and still carry a quiet lake inside you. It is when you can smile. Even without having everything, because you know. You already have the most important thing, your own presence, and perhaps this world would be far more beautiful. If each person learned to sit with themselves for just 5 minutes a day, to hear that small inner voice that has been forgotten for too long. If you feel something along these lines, if you see yourself in those moments of quiet, leave a comment, because who knows, your story might touch someone who needs it. And don't forget, subscribe to Mindora, turn on notifications so we can continue together on this journey of understanding, reflecting, and letting go. Because sometimes, with just a little stillness, you can hear the entire universe smiling inside you.